The primary election is fast approaching. Here in Maryland, July 19th is the date. Of course, this date changed due to a court order. So election day coming up, July 19th in Maryland, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. primary election day. Polling places will be open. Now, with regards to early voting, centers will open on July 7th and stay open until July 14th. You can vote early at any of the early voting centers in the jurisdiction that you live. Locations will be announced soon. So one of the main races that folks are looking at, focusing on here in Maryland, of course, is the gubernatorial primary, that election. Who's going to replace incumbent Governor Larry Hogan? Of course, Larry Hogan is term limited and is serving out the remainder of his term. He's had two. Republican Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford announced earlier this month that he will not be a candidate for governor. So as of the filing deadline, there are 14 candidates running in their respective primary elections for governor of Maryland. You have 10 Democrats, you have 4 Republicans. And we are really entering into a very exciting time, right? The Democrats, their primary is on July 19th. And the Republicans in Maryland, primary is on July 19th. So what if you're an independent? Now, independents and other unaffiliated candidates are not subjected to the primary elections. They're going to go straight to November. These candidates, these independents or unaffiliated candidates, will run in the general election only, which is in November. So there are a bunch of folks, as I said, 14 that are running for governor. And last night, 7 of the Maryland Democrats participated in a forum at Coppin State, the historically black college and universities. Came up a lot in the conversation, as it should. But last night's forum really centered around the inequity and a remedy for the inequity economically of HBCUs and Baltimore in general. So these 7 candidates pointed to, the funding of the HBCUs. Unfortunately, HBCUs have historically been underfunded public colleges. They have been. So there was conversation about a way to cure the shortage of healthcare workers and some inequity in education. Great conversations to have. For the most part, this was a cordial forum. I think that things are going to have to dwindle down a little bit more before we really start seeing these candidates go at each other. And when addressing their plans to implement the blueprint for Maryland's future education reforms, there were some interesting comments. Wes Moore, who is one of the frontrunners on the Democratic side, and Tom Perez, the former Maryland and U.S. Labor Secretary, both of these gentlemen said that Maryland's student bodies overwhelmingly is not represented by the educators in their classrooms, right? In other words, the educators, the teachers, are disproportionately white. Tom Perez said, our students are disproportionately non-white, Perez said. I had a chance to speak with Tom Perez after the forum, and I was really impressed with Tom Perez. He obviously is a former U.S. Secretary of Labor, and many folks nationwide saw him as the head of the Democratic Party. And in these positions, I really had a different perspective and a different view of Tom Perez. But since he's been running for governor of Maryland, I've had a chance to see, the passion. And I've had a chance to hear him, and I like what he's saying. I really like what he's saying. And really the experience that he has as the Secretary of Labor, he has really been pointing to some of his traits, some of his duties, his ability to bring folks together, create a coalition. These are things you talked about, a labor strike where he was able to get folks to the table. These are some of the types of things that we need our politicians to be able to do. And especially here in Maryland, where you have just a big line between the haves and the have-nots, a big line between who has been getting money and who has been underfunded. And these sides are not on the same page. And you do need someone, especially after 8 years of Larry Hogan, we need someone who can really bring folks together. We need an investment in Baltimore, right? We need an investment in Baltimore. A lot of other counties in the state have seen investment. Baltimore has just been underserved. And we need someone in Annapolis that has a good relationship and has the desire to see things work here in Baltimore. Once again, after 8 years of Larry Hogan, we haven't had that. We have not had that. And I'm not blaming Annapolis for every problem in Baltimore. Don't misinterpret my words. But there is definitely an issue when you talk about HBCUs. Several candidates running mates attended HBCUs, right? Now, when we talk about HBCUs, last spring, Maryland reached a $577 million settlement with its 4 HBCUs. There had been a 15-year lawsuit alleging that the state provided them with inequitable resources. This is not a secret. This is not anything that most people did not know. It took way too long for this settlement to happen. So the General Assembly passed legislation last year to require a steady flow of that funding to Morgan, to Coppin, to Bowie, and to UMES, Eastern Shore, over the next decade. This is a step in the right direction, right? We also had the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, Mackenzie Scott, donated $40 million to Morgan State, $25 million to Bowie, $20 million to the UMES in late 2020. So now these universities have to plan how to best use that funding. And I'm really hoping that this money goes to the students, benefiting the students, and not in some bureaucrats' pockets. So we had this candidate forum where we had 7 Democrats who are trying to become the next governor of Maryland. And what did they talk about? It was it's over a little bit over 2 hours of discussion, but there were some standout moments. And, Westmore, someone who has been in the news lately, as I said, one of the front runners, polished. He's polished. He knows his spill. He knows his shtick, right? He's had experience speaking, and he comes off as what he is, a Rhodes Scholar. So he brings that to the table. And another person that I was very impressed with, former Prince George's County Executive Rashawn L. Baker III. Went to Howard University, met his late wife when they were both students at Howard. She went on to work at the UNCF, United Negro College Fund, after she graduated. So HBCUs, something that is very important to him. And, I like that fact. And, the forum, it exceeded my expectations. And I want to see more of these. And I wish it had been promoted more. But nonetheless, the forum also included John Barron, who I also had a chance to talk to after the forum. I really liked the ideas. He's a fresh face. He's someone, incredibly intelligent. And he has the type of energy that is needed. He's a progressive. A former vice president of evidence-based policy, Arnold Ventures, right? So he's looking at things. And one thing I really liked about John Barron was he recognized and pointed out on numerous occasions that these problems that we've been facing here in Baltimore, in Maryland, in the country, are problems that we have been plagued with for years and years and years. And Mr. Barron pointed out, as a lot of his colleagues, running mate, his opponents, kind of running down the same old. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And John Barron pointed out the fact that we've been doing it that way for years, and nothing is different. He pointed out that a lot of these candidates are just giving us more of the same. It was a powerful moment, and I agree with him 100%. 100%. Very progressive, but at the same time, he is a let's look at the science kind of guy, right? Let's do what's been proven, right? Now, you have someone like Rashawn Baker, who is the president and CEO of Baker Strategies. As I said, former Prince George's County Executive, 2010 to 2018. And he was leaning on his experience as an executive, his experience in government, and his knowledge on how to get things done. So in addition to that, we had Doug Gansler, who is, of course, many people recognize him, or at least recognize his name. He's a former Maryland Attorney General from 2007 to 2015. He's another person who was really pointing to his record, pointing to his experience. The fact that he's been doing this on a high level for many years, right? And there was, I don't want to say there were dust-ups per se. Dr. Jerome Seagal was, picture Bernie Sanders. He had that kind of energy, right? He had that kind of energy, and he was definitely someone speaking his mind. He is the founder of Bread and Roses, the author of Graceful Simplicity, the philosophy of and politics of living simple, or simple living. And, you know, he's 78 years old, and he is on the far left of what you would say the Democratic Party, right? He had a lot of ideas that were populist ideas, will be great for the people, but very, very difficult in getting some of the things that he wants to get done, right? Very difficult. So we talked about Tom Perez, former U.S. Secretary of Labor, 2013, 2017. His running mate, Baltimore City Councilwoman Sharon Sneed from District 13. So we talked about Wes Moore briefly. Wes Moore, the former CEO, former combat veteran, small business owner from Tacoma Park. He is the author of The Other Wes Moore. And, you know, his running mate is from Montgomery County, former delegate from District 15, Delegate Miller, former Delegate Miller. She was in that seat 2011 to 2019. Wes Moore, as I said, a Rhodes Scholar, right? Super smart, has the business experience, military experience. He has the poise, he has the look, he has the ability to communicate. I just feel that he came off as above the fray a bit. There were some jabs thrown at him about a few things with regards to some of his endorsements. Mr. Moore spoke about his many endorsements. And if you've been throughout Baltimore, you've seen some of his signs. You've seen a lot of advertisement for him. And you've seen him talking about his books, talking about different things. He's done a lot, and he's had a lot of visibility. Yesterday, I was expecting him to be, I don't know, more down to earth. But I mean, you know, there's been this long said thing that your politician has to be somebody that you could picture yourself having a beer with, right? I couldn't picture myself having a beer with Wes Moore. Well, I don't drink first, so let me say that. But Wes Moore, I was more impressed with Tom Perez than I was with Wes Moore. Now, I don't know whether that was because my expectations were lower for Tom Perez because of what I had seen from him previously, or Wes Moore's were so high because of what I've seen from him previously. I don't know. And as this race goes on, I think that we're going to really be able to unpack and unravel some of that stuff. So Doug Gansler came at things like you would expect. He's going to be heavy law enforcement. He's an attorney general, or he's a former attorney general. So his focus was on reducing crime. And he said pretty much, if you want things to stay the same, vote for one of these other guys, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do some things different. And I am going to buckle down on crime. Another front runner, another person that in Maryland people know, Peter Franchot. And he is the comptroller. He's been the comptroller since 2007. Most folks in Maryland know him, at least know his name. 74 years old. And, you know, he didn't come off as Joe Biden exactly, but he had that Joe Biden energy. You know what I mean? He had that Joe Biden energy. He had that, you know me, kind of vibe. I've been doing this. I'm going to continue to do what Maryland needs, but I'm going to have, you know, more leeway to get things done if you make me the governor. And that was his thing, my record. And he obviously has experience in government. Now, of course, if you're somebody like John Barron or you're somebody like Tom Perez, you're going to point to a Peter Franchot and say, you know, look at these folks' records. you haven't been doing anything, pretty much, right? Haven't been doing anything. Wes Moore said something that was, I thought was very interesting. He said that a lot of these folks on the stage, their fingerprints are on some of the bad things that have happened, right? Like, you've been a part, the ones that say, oh, I've been in government, I've been doing this in Maryland, I've been doing this, you're part of the problem. And that was something that Rashawn Baker pointed out. And he accepted his part in being a member of government for years, and even acknowledged that he's made mistakes. Most politicians don't say, "Ooh, I've made some mistakes over time," right? They just kind of act like if they've been in government that they've been doing it, and if they were in office during the time when something less than favorable happened, it was somebody else's fault. But Mr. Baker doing a rare thing and actually accepting some blame for some things. So it's still early in the race. We still have about 2 months to go, and we're going to see more of forums and debates and such. With regards to, we've been talking about Democrats. With regards to the Republicans, you have 4 Republicans running. You have Dan Cox, who is a state delegate, District 4, Carroll and Frederick counties since 2019. All right. And so, as I said, he's one of the 4. Mr. Cox was or is endorsed by Donald Trump. So you already have an idea of the type of Republican that he is. And he's, not a fan. Dan Cox is not a fan of Larry Hogan. Obviously, Hogan and Trump not on the same page. So he is someone who is kind of, anti-Hogan. And that's interesting to see from a Republican. You also have Robin Ficker running for governor. He's a Republican. And, Robin for governor is his hashtag. He's from Montgomery County. He's an attorney. So that is one of the Republicans out there. And you also have Kelly Schultz. She's a former Maryland Secretary of Commerce, 2019 to 2022. Former Maryland Secretary of Labor, 2015 to 2019. And, so she's a Republican that she's running. And so she has some interesting ideas. And, we know what we're going to get from a Republican for the most part. So she's been talking about some of her endorsements. And, it is another focus of the Republican Party. She's talking about what's happening in the classrooms. And we are all very focused on that. I think that that Kelly Schultz is one of the Republican frontrunners, and she wants to make sure that all children receive a world-class education. Maryland does have some amazing schools, and we agree on that. I would really like to sit down and talk with her about her promise and her commitment to the students of Maryland and what exactly she has in mind for that. But you have one other Republican running, and that is Joe Werner. Not a lot of information out there about him. I have seen his social media, looked at some of his videos and some of the things that he has to say. So that's going to be interesting. So we have these 4, Joe Werner, Kelly Schultz, Robin Ficker, Dan Cox, trying to replace Governor Larry Hogan. And we have 10 Democrats, 7 who we saw last night at Coppin State University for this economic forum. Interesting times that we are in. I want to make sure that folks are out there in Maryland, that you start researching these folks. And I said, I'm going to be talking about the election. I'm going to be talking about this primary. I'm going to be talking about the midterms for the foreseeable future because it is super important. It is super important. The voter's guide. I want to be your voter's guide here in Maryland. Whoever you vote for, right? I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Of course, I'm going to give you my take on this. But I am committed to give you the information that you need to cast your vote. This primary election is coming up. Registered voters can participate in the primary election of their party affiliation. And of course, in November, you can do what you do. But the primary, who you're registered to, Democrat or Republican, that's who you're going to be have the opportunity to vote for. We said this earlier. Voting centers are going to open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the primary. Early voting centers open July the 7th to July 14th. You can vote at any early voting center in the jurisdiction that you live. And when those locations become announced or are announced, we're going to put that out there. Primary election polling places will open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on July 19th. So early voting July 7th to July 14th. And then primary election day, July 19th. You must vote at your assigned polling place on primary election day. So thankfully, Larry Hogan is at the end of his term and he is going to move on and do what's next in his, whatever he has next on his bucket list. We have 14 candidates right now. And as things dwindle down, I think that the reins are going to tighten up and we're really going to be able to see what we have here. Is it going to be a Democrat? Is it going to be a Republican? Is it going to be an independent or unaffiliated candidate that makes it to become the next mayor of the great state of Maryland? You will be the deciders of that. You made Diamond K in here, of course, thediamondkshow.com, onfire-tv.com. That is onfire-tv.com. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Of course, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn at The Diamond K Show. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Tried your best, work real hard, said your prayers, gave it to God. He made a way when you saw none. Erased the fear, helped you overcome. Now you did it, you reached the top.